What is up, Karma Nation? Welcome into another edition of our NBA live show. I am your host, Bales, along here with Joey, and we have a relatively small four-game NBA slate tonight. With that being said, it's actually a relatively solid slate, and we got news pretty early. Anthony Davis out, Devin Booker out, Cameron Payne out. We're still more or less waiting on the Heat news to drop, and that's kind of what's going to change kind of what we're doing tonight. Also, LeBron James is questionable, but seems like it would be relatively weird if Anthony Davis has already been ruled out and LeBron James hasn't if he doesn't play in this game. So I would anticipate him playing again. But before we get started, Joey, how are you today?
Doing pretty well. We destroyed some props last night. I think we were almost perfect besides James Harden. So Discord had a really good day with props. This whole week really we've been hitting our stride, and it looks like Corey's doing pretty well. So having a good day. Good day.
If you want in on our props, you can go to dfskarma.com, go to our shop and grab an NBA package. You can get daily, weekly, or monthly. I believe the props are just with the weekly, monthly, or I believe we offer season long still. I mean, yeah, we've pretty much been on fire for the majority of the season. I know Ben's been killing it. James Sriracha has been on fire for FanDuel. It's been a really good year, but we can start on this slate, which once again is only four games. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. And let's just start at point guard because there's three guys at the very top in Damian Lillard, LeBron James, and Stephen Curry. With CJ McCollum hurt, he's kind of the next guy, and then Victor Oladipo behind them, but he more or less loses a bit of value with everyone healthy. John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins just taking up a ridiculous amount of usage around there, and now Christian Wood is returning. So Oladipo's pretty much off the market for me. I believe Chris Paul's the other 8K or higher guy, and I do believe that Paul's a really good option with Devin Booker out. But let's focus on the three high-priced guys. Where are you looking?
Yeah, I love all three of them. I don't think you can really go completely wrong choosing any of them. Damian Lillard been on fire since CJ McCollum's been out, and he's gonna be out for like 8 weeks. So, he's gonna be playable each and every slate as long as it's, especially on these small slates where you really need those raw points. He shot 36% and still at over 50 fantasy points. Gets a much easier matchup. He was stuck with Dort defense last time, so he only had 26 points, but I'm sure he'll be back right up over 30 points pretty easily and has a huge 3 point bonus with him. And if he's able to get that double double bonus, he's also a great play. And it's Houston. He loves going off against Houston, but unfortunately Russ isn't there. So the narrative's not as much there to destroy the Rockets, but I'm sure he still has a little chip on his shoulder. And then you have LeBron James right underneath. $200 less. He's also extremely in play. I'm probably going to try to fit both of those guys in. I'll probably have LeBron James in the small forward spot and Damian Lillard in my point guard spot. But LeBron James has been doing pretty bad with Anthony Davis out, but one of those games was a blowout. And then the other game against Chicago, no one can really play defense on Chicago, so everyone was hitting shots for the Lakers. So he didn't really need to do that much, but against the Pistons should be a pretty close game. Should the line move from 10.5 to 6.5, so the blowout risk is a lot less without Anthony Davis. It seemed like Anthony Davis really wanted to have a bounce back game after losing against Philly. And LeBron doesn't like to lose twice, so he's definitely going to be playing on the top of his game. And Detroit doesn't really scare me defensively at all. And then you have Steph Curry right there underneath at 9.7. He's probably going to get the lowest ownership out of all of them just because LeBron and Damian are just such better plays. But Curry coming off a bad, I think he had 2 points in the first half and finished with 16. So Curry off a bad game is going to really try to shoot well and, averages average out. So one bad game. Normally you can turn that around, especially as a superstar. So I love paying up for all three of these guys. I might try to fit them all in, but most likely I'm going to be prioritizing Damian Lillard and LeBron James at the top. And then, yeah, you did mention Victor Oladipo definitely takes a hit with all these guys back. I mean, I think this is the first game all three of these guys are playing, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Boogie takes up a ton of usage anyway, so going from Boogie to Christian Wood probably doesn't make too much a difference with the usage rates. Just because, I mean, Boogie takes up a huge usage rate, even though we don't really expect that. But yeah, he's taking up a huge usage rate, and then you got Chris Paul right underneath. Another good play. Golden State doesn't really play that much defense, and we saw him drop 32 points last night. A lot of these guys aren't back to back, so I don't worry too much about back to backs when everyone's really on the back to back, and they're at home. So should be a pretty interesting slate for point guards. I love a lot of these guys for the pay ups, so you're gonna have to decide between them. But I'm definitely probably fading Oladipo. He's just way too expensive, and possibly John Wall. John Wall's cheaper though, so and he should be playing Damian Lillard defense, which I'm not too worried about Damian Lillard. So I'll probably prioritize Wall over Oladipo if I want someone from that Houston game to run back from Damian Lillard.
Yeah, I would more or less agree. I think Lillard and LeBron are like the very two clearly top options for me. I think Curry's a bit under them. I would probably, for his price, prefer Chris Paul. So I think I would probably right now have LeBron, James, Lillard, Paul, then Curry if I'm choosing from anyone 8K or higher. Outside of that, there's not truthfully that much I like. I think Reggie Jackson at 7K, you are chasing points, and if this were a bigger slate, I wouldn't consider him, but he should get massive minutes with Patrick Beverly is out with a knee injury, and then on the COVID protocol, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are both out again. So yes, you are chasing points with Reggie Jackson, but he's going to play minutes in the high 30s most likely. So at 7K, it's not actually that bad. Outside of that, there's two cheap guys that I would consider, and it's Anthony Simmons, who I don't believe is likely to play minutes in the high 20s again. I would say more or less the mid 20s, but he's only 4,200, and he can score points in a hurry. Plus, he gets a solid matchup against Houston. And then Javon Carter is expected to play around 20 minutes, and he's 3,200. So again, not that he's necessarily a player that I absolutely love or anything, but it's only 4 games, and he's 3,200. So at 20 minutes, he probably can hit value, and that's more or less all you can ask for at the moment out of some of these really cheap guys. I feel like he's one of the top cheap options. Outside of like the high price guys, is there anyone else that you're looking at here?
Not really. I did like the Carter call. He's pretty good defensively, hustles a lot, so we could see him play. He could definitely play over 20 minutes again, just because they might need the defense on Steph Curry, especially if his shot's really falling. But yeah, I do love Anthony Simons as well. That's probably it. Man, if he gets to start again, is an interesting play, but they do a good job pricing up Clippers, but no one else ever. So I don't know why they are obsessed with pricing up Clippers a lot. They can price up Boogie, but they could price up all the Clippers before they even played a game without Kawhi and all those guys who were on COVID. But yeah, those are probably everyone I'm leaning for the point guard spot. Delon Wright's been an interesting play. He's been scoring over 30 points, and he can fill his stat sheet with some steals, which is always a nice bonus, 2 or 3 points depending on what site you're on. But so Delon Wright's probably the only other guy I'd be looking at. Just if the game stays close with LA Detroit, those guys, you're gonna need somebody on Detroit to have a good scoring game.
Gotta agree with that. And he played 30 minutes last night. The only thing that I don't love about him is that his price is just so high up. And with Derrick Rose back, I don't really trust it. And again, I'm kind of saying it over and over again, but literally it's 4 games. There just aren't that many elite plays. So kind of decent plays are going to be put into your player pool. And great segue to shooting guard, because there's literally nothing that I like at shooting guard. At the top, you have like Oladipo, you have Wiggins. I don't really want to play either of them. I think that Anthony Simons and Javon Carter, again, both shooting guard eligible. I like either one of them. As much as it pains me to say, Wayne Ellington is getting 30 plus minutes and he's 5,100. Like, Wayne Ellington is legitimately could be the best shooting guard option on the slate. It's crazy to say it. I think
Yeah.
Damian Lee with some upside. Rodney Hood or Gary Trent both are going to see some minutes. I think the big thing for me is going to be the Heat news because if you have guys like Tyler Hero and Jimmy Butler out, obviously value is going to open up at shooting guard. So I have no issues whatsoever with that. And then I'll also say Dennis Schroeder is going to see a bump up with AD. He'll just get more usage. And you can take a shot on Kentavious Caldwell Pope. We know that he has the upside if his shot's falling. He's only 4K. So, the two guys for LA, I don't really hate. Um, it's just, I don't like the position at all. I don't know if you feel differently about it. And there's someone like you
Yeah.
love shooting guard, but it's just not. It's the weakest position on the slate, I think, by a wide margin.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of shooting guard. If we get Heat news, it'd be pretty nice because you have Vincent and Bradley right down there. If, say, all the Heat guys are still out, if Butler's out, if Hero and Robinson are out, you can play those guys, those cheap uh, Miami guys. That'll help save the slate for some value. But I might end up going back to Lou Williams. He had a really bad first half, but he continued to shoot pretty well. And he got, I think he played, was it the same? He never really came out. He just played one huge stint in the first half and one huge stint in the second half. But he put up 6 shots, I believe, in the first half, and his shots falling. They might have to ride him tonight. Heat could make this game ugly if everyone's in. And Lou Williams occasionally, he doesn't go out to the strip clubs anymore because of COVID. So that might be playing a role. He can't get his lemon pepper wings. But we'll see what happens tonight. I don't mind taking a shot on Lou just because it's a 4-game slate. He put up most of his points in the second half. So if he's able to catch fire, he's a pretty good play. But yeah, it's a pretty ugly slate for shooting guard. I'll probably play some point guards that are shooting guard eligible there.
I'm thinking the same thing. Someone asked, can they play Wall and GPP because the Blazers have zero rim protection? Yeah, I think you can. He shot 21 times in 24 minutes last night against the Wizards, which is pretty hilarious. I think his minutes jump up a little bit tonight. I don't really think he goes to like the 35 or anything, which kind of makes me worry, especially with all the really good point guard options. But yeah, Wall's a fine GPP play. At small forward, the number one option is LeBron James. No one's even close. I mean, that's all there really is to it. I also think that Kyle Kuzma, who's small forward eligible, you can say Caldwell Pope, he can play small forward on DraftKings, and Talon Horton Tucker will all be in play for LA. Horton Tucker's only 3,100. I think that he's going to see arguably the biggest bump with Anthony Davis out. Kyle Kuzma, obviously, as well. But both of them make strong options as salary relief plays. Outside of that, Jay Crowder, I mean, the guy has turned the clock back. Jay Crowder looks really, really good. I have no problems with Devin Booker out once again. Cameron Johnson is, a little too cheap. I feel like out of those two, do you prefer Crowder or Johnson? I feel like I would lean slightly towards Crowder for 200 more, but which one of those two would you rather play?
I would rather play Crowder, but I assume recency bias, everyone's just going to play Crowder. But both played similar minutes. Crowder's shot was falling. Johnson didn't take as many shots, but I assume Crowder's going to be a lot more chalky, especially seeing 45 and 33 minutes last 2 games. So I do like points more, but as a leverage play, I'd rather go Cameron Johnson tonight, just because it's a smaller slate. I'm trying to get leverage somewhere because my lineup's probably going to end up being chalky.
Yeah, I would be 100% fine with that. I think for me, other small forwards that are at least in play, even though I wouldn't necessarily say I love any of them, would be Derek Jones Jr., Marcus Morris, Mikal Bridges. And then if you're going to spend up a little bit more, Kelly Oubre comes with more than enough upside to really dominate the 6,400 price tag. So I like that. And then Jeremy Grant, it's so tough paying this much for him, but he's legit like a completely new player and has just been on fire. So on a 4 game slate, if you want to take your shot with Jeremy Grant, feel free. That's probably not where I'm personally going to spend up, but he's probably going to be pretty low owned.
Yeah, I doubt anyone plays Jeremy Grant. I think he got a snowflake last night. I believe he's shooting well, but he just didn't really put anything else up. Let me see here. What he had 34 fantasy points. Yeah, I assume people are just gonna try to avoid him just because there's so many other spots to pay up for tonight. And no one's probably gonna be able to afford him, especially with very little value. So if you're paying up for LeBron and you're paying up for Damian Lillard, you're gonna have to play 4K, 5K guys. So there's really gonna be no more salary for Jeremy Grant. So I assume you're gonna get him sub 15%, sub 10% owned on such a small slate. He's definitely worth the shot if his shot's falling. Just to keep this game close. Blake Griffin hasn't been himself this year. He really hasn't been able to help that much. So Grant's really the main scorer, especially if Wayne Ellington's shot's not falling. You shouldn't be relying on Wayne Ellington to keep you in games. But yeah, as long as his shot's falling and if he's able to get rebounds, without Anthony Davis, it should be easier for these guys to grab rebounds in LA. So if he can get his normal 6 to 10 rebound game and can sneak in a double double bonus, he's definitely worth a leverage play. He could easily get you 45 points, but 8,400 is really paying for a ceiling game, which is something I don't want. But in such a small slate, it's worth taking the risk.
Yeah, I have no issues with it. Moving to power forward, there's a lot of guys that are small forward eligible that I feel like you can play here. So I'm not going to go over all of them again. This is always replayable. You can just scroll right back to the small forward spot and you'll hear all of them. But the power forward options, I think that Draymond Green is still a little underpriced at 5,600. I know he hasn't necessarily been this dominant option or anything, but you're getting triple double upside, so I don't hate it whatsoever. Carmelo Anthony with Robert Covington sitting once again makes a really good option, especially in the game against Houston. He looked really good in his last game. He actually started out pretty slow, but he took 21 shots, hit only 9 of them, and he still scored 22. I mean, there's just a lot more scoring upside than what he displayed in that game, and I still think he dropped like 35 fantasy points. PJ Tucker, I don't ever want to say the guy's name. I'm probably not going to end up playing him, but he's going to play 30 plus minutes. So, only 4 games. And he does come with 30 plus fantasy point upside for a super low price tag. It's just that he also can literally drop like sub 5 fantasy points in 30 minutes. So, if you're playing PJ Tucker, you're taking a serious risk, but there is quite a bit of reward to be had there. Is there anyone else really that you're looking at for power forward? I feel like this is kind of like the power forward, small forward options kind of just go together. So I feel like there's very few strictly power forward plays, but feel free to outline anyone else that you want.
Yeah, I feel like you have. I feel like PJ Tucker's on every Thursday night game because I feel like we always say the same thing every time I come on.
Every
Yeah, he's tough to play. I probably won't go to him, but yeah, he can drop you 5 fantasy points or he can drop you 30. If they need a scorer, yeah, he can sit in the corner and hit 3 or 4 threes. But yeah, I don't want to go to him. My main power forward play is definitely Carmelo Anthony, like you said. Houston doesn't scare me too much defensively. And yeah, he took 21 shots. There's not much scoring output for Portland outside of Damian Lillard that you can rely on game in and game out without CJ McCollum. So, Carmelo Anthony's going to take his 20 mid-range shots against Houston. Should be a pretty good one. I think, is that the highest over-under on their slate? Yeah, highest over-under on the slate by 10 points. So, there's going to be a lot of points to put up. And you got the revenge narrative against Houston. I like a good revenge narrative. So definitely an interesting play there. But outside of that, no one. There's not really any powerful or eligible players that aren't eligible at any other position. Really, Carmelo Anthony's the only one that's active tonight that you'd play, or who gets minutes. So yeah, we touched on everyone else outside of that. Blake Griffin, I'm waiting for that ceiling game to come. It just hasn't come yet, really. He's gotten 3 games over 30 fantasy points, 1 game over 40 fantasy points. He just really doesn't at 6K provide enough upside for me to touch him at all. But yeah, other than that, Nicholas Batum's always an interesting play with Kawhi or PG out. He always seems to flash a ceiling game there. But again, these Clippers guys are really priced at a ceiling game, so it's tough to play those guys. But on a small slate, it's definitely worth it. And then you got, of course, Draymond Green right there, like you said. You can fill up the stat sheet if he's getting some steals and blocks. It's a bonus. He always has triple-double upside, even though he's only gotten 2 double-doubles this season. He flirted with a triple-double in one of those double-double games. So Draymond Green always got some nice ceiling, and with not much value, you're probably going to play a lot of these 4K, 5K guys, like I said earlier. So I'm assuming Carmelo Anthony and Draymond Green are the 2 most popular power forward plays on the slate, especially with Anthony Davis gone. But then you have... with no Anthony Davis, you have Kyle Kuzma. I feel like he's let us down every time Anthony Davis has been out. So I really don't want to go back to him, but I assume he's going to be chalk again. And I'm sure we're going to end up eating it in cash and hating ourselves again. But that's why I hate playing cash on small slates. But definitely an interesting play. He's going to flash a ceiling one of these games with Anthony Davis out. So you got to hope you catch him. Catch him on a good game and fade him on these bad games. But yeah, other than that, not much I am looking at power forward. So we can move on to center.
Yeah, a few people said Markieff Morris. I get it. I just don't think that he plays enough minutes. Really, I don't think that Morris is going to be a guy that really benefits that much from Anthony Davis being out. I would assume, he more or less sticks to around 15. If he gets up to 20, I do think it's a reasonable play. But he's not really someone that is likely to make my player pool. I will say I do understand it though, and
he's gotten 20 fantasy points each time. At 3K, he's gotten 20 fantasy points on each game Anthony Davis has been out. So it's an interesting play. It's all 30 minutes and 15 minutes, so not much value. It's worth a shot in GPPs, I would say.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's just
it's tough.
It's so crazy because the 4 games. If it was more than 4 games, there's no way I would even be considering.
Not at all. But no.
Yeah. Center has a ton of really good options. I mean, at the top you have Bam Adebayo. He's just a great play. You have Christian Wood, who I would strictly say is a tournament option for his price tag, just because. Truthfully, I don't know how many minutes he's going to play with Cousins playing so well. I don't know how he's going to play with Oladipo and Wall because it's the first time all 3 are playing. So strictly a tournament option. DeAndre Ayton's a little bit below him. He's coming off just a terrible game last night where I believe he was kind of owned. So he might go a bit overlooked. I do really like it. DeMarcus Cousins, I can't imagine there's any way whatsoever that I play him because his minutes are going to get cut with Wood back. And then Enes Kanter played 32 minutes in their last game. If he's getting 30-plus minutes at 7,100, that's a pretty valuable play, in my opinion. Around the top, who do you think is the top option?
Obviously, Bam with the Clippers missing a good amount of people. But if Jimmy Butler and everyone's back, I don't know if I can play Bam. I don't think the ceiling's there. The scoring and all the assists probably go down. And 9-2 with everyone back, I probably can't play him. But you got the other guys. Christian Wood, all the Depot and Wall were both on minutes restrictions or minutes monitored. So I assume Wood gets the same treatment and sees less than 30 minutes. But we'll know for sure later on if he's limited or not. But at 8-7, that's another one I probably can't afford on this slate. So I'm most likely looking at Ayton, Cantor, and Harrell as my top plays at center. Cantor is just amazing at rebounding. You need some scoring as well without CJ McCollum or Nurkic. But yeah, he had 23 rebounds last game against OKC. Got that revenge double double there. And he flashes some block upside, especially with like you said, John Wall going to the rim. Not much rim protection out there, but Cantor's going to be there in the paint, so he could have some more block upside there. And if he gets that double double bonus, 7-1 playing 30 plus minutes is definitely one of the best plays I can think of on the slate. And Ayton, not much defense inside for Golden State. Wiseman's still a rookie, so he's not fully there defensively. Same with Ayton, also not there fully defensively. So on the other side, Ayton and Wiseman are both pretty good plays. Wiseman's still cheap enough where I can play him. But curious if the Clippers pull out a little more Zubac just to defend Bam if Ibaka gets into a little foul trouble trying to block everyone. Go back to Ibaka. So most likely I'm looking at Ayton, Cantor, and Wiseman as my three, and then Harrell there too. Those are my four guys I'm looking at. I wish some of them were power forward eligible. They seem to not. They seem to get rid of that center power forward eligibility like we saw a lot last year. So they're moving these true centers. We can't sneak them into power forward spots anymore. But yeah, that's probably where I'm looking mainly.
Yeah, I like that. Weissman's a little too cheap if he's getting 25 minutes. The problem is, do we trust his minutes? I'm not sure. The more I look into it, the more Markieff Morris actually, I feel like he's going to make a really good play tonight.
Yeah, I hate
we'll,
to say
we'll
it,
see
but
come game time. But Montrezl Harrell, I think, is 100% fine. I actually like Serge Ibaka at 6,800. His usage rating in his last game with everyone out jumped to almost 30%. If he's getting similar usage tonight, for 6,800, he could have a massive game. But I guess the only other guy that you didn't mention, I don't believe, that I think is in play in tournaments is Mason Plumley. He's been playing better over his last couple games. His minutes have been up in the high 20s. So I don't hate Mason Plumley. I don't really like the matchup. And, I don't love him necessarily as a player. I feel like I'll probably go elsewhere. But for 4,800, I do think that it's a reasonable option.
I doubt he has any ownership either.
Yeah, he's a guy that's definitely going to go overlooked. So I think that's basically it. So let's continue to make Ben proud and give me a bold call for tonight.
Bold call. I will say that Wiseman is the highest scoring center on the slate.
Wiseman's the highest scoring center.
That's a bold call right there.
That's bolder than anything that I'm willing to do.
Hey, Ayton does not have good defense whatsoever, so we could see his first 2015 game of the slate of his career.
Yeah, that'd be pretty crazy. I'll go with Christian Wood scores 30 or more real points.
I like that. A little less crazy, but definitely could happen. Hopefully he's not on a minutes limit, but Cantor defense is nothing to be scared of at all. So he could easily just drop 30 real points. No question about that.
So that's all we have for you guys today. Obviously, you can go to dfskarma.com, check out our articles. You can go ahead and pick up our NBA packages. They're daily, weekly, monthly. Just at dfskarma.com. And good luck tonight, everyone.